Hi everyone! In this video I'm going to draw an eye on toned paper. The first part of the video will go through the structure of the eye, and then the second part of the video will go through the coloring using colored pencil and marker. As I look at the angle of the eye, so if you see here from tip to tip, this particular eye goes up a little bit away from the nose. So what I'm going to do is just simply put a line on my page. And this line is going to give me that slight direction up to down. And I'm not going to draw the eye this big. This is just a guideline. Now from here, I'm going to use that to build out the shape of the eye. So we have our kind of iris there. I'm sorry, not the iris, the tear duct, and then the eye comes out. Maybe not quite that big, but we can kind of build it around that base. Usually you're going to have a little bit more roundness on the top and a little bit more flatness on the bottom, but that's not always the case, so make sure you're looking at your reference if you're drawing somebody specific. All right. So that's kind of our general shape. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the iris. So the iris takes up 20 or 50% of the white of the eye. So the white of the eye goes from here to here. So 50% of this needs to be an iris. Now when you're drawing in your iris, you want to make sure that you're drawing a complete circle. You can see my lines are quite a bit, like pretty sketchy right now. This is how I draw. I kind of find my path. So I'm drawing in my complete circle. And often you're going to have the iris vanishing into the top or the bottom of the eyelid. In this case, slightly in both directions here. So there's my circle. And now if I take this, let's see here, I'll use the tip of my pencil. Oh, look at that, that's perfect. So this is the width of my iris. So then I take this and I add it to this. And I should, yeah, so it's just a little bit big actually. So what I'll do is just kind of tighten it up here just a little bit. There we go. All right, so there's our iris, and we're going to add the pupil. Now the pupil is going to be exactly in the center, so something I sometimes do just to find center is I turn this into a little pizza, and that usually gives you an indication of where your center is, and then I use that as a guide. And if you're centering it within your eye, you might run into some trouble because again, you're going to be kind of losing part of the top or part of the bottom. So you want to try to make sure that it's centered within the eye. Now your pupil is going to get bigger or smaller depending on your mood and lighting. So there's no real rules here. I'm just going to go a little tiny bit bigger. Of course, a bigger pupil indicates that you're in a darker space and smaller, a lighter space. All right, so now I'm going to refine the shape of my eye just a little bit here. Now that I've got everything in place, so I'm going to go a little bit more shallow here. Again, I'm just being very sketchy with my lines. That's totally okay. Here we go. All right, now I'm going to erase the top of that iris, and I'm going to erase a little bit of my sketchy lines here. I no longer need the center line. And these lines aren't really bugging me. I'm eventually going to be adding in kind of a texture there that reflects those lines, but we don't need them right now. All right, I'm going to just lower this just a bit more. Okay, so now we have our eye shape drawn in. Now what we're going to do is add a lid. Now not all eyes have a visible lid on the top. This particular one does. And I would say, you know, in a lot of situations, you're going to see an upper lid here. If you have a hooded eye, you won't see that like I do. So when I draw pictures of my own eye, I don't actually get to see that secondary lid up there. And then you do also want to be able to see the inside of your lid. So I'm going to go here. I'm just going to add a little bit of a rim. Now, it's not too visible in this photo. It is on the bottom though. On the bottom it is. So I'm going to add just a little bit of an extra lid here. So we're seeing more of the bottom one because it's facing out at us, and also there's not quite as much eyelashes in that space to kind of cloud that area. There we go. So I have a lid on the top, a lid on the bottom, and then I have this lid right here. My tear duct is in this space, and I basically have this structure at this point. I'm not going to bother with any eyelashes, but when I do, they're going to kind of come out this way and follow around like that, but we're going to do that later. So I'm just going to clean this up a bit. I'm actually going to redraw the top here. Lots of erasing here, sorry. So here's the, there we go. All right. Now I am going to be using marker, and if you put colored pencil, or not, sorry, if you put marker on top of pencil, you're going to get a permanent marker pencil kind of thing going on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to soften, actually I think I'll use a kneadable eraser here. I'm going to soften my pencil. I'm not going to erase it. I'm just going to soften it with a kneadable eraser, and then I'm going to just kind of smudge here a little bit. There we go. So you can see my eye is still there, but it's a little bit harder to see. Now because I'm using marker, I'm going to put a piece of paper behind my drawing, and I'm going to be starting with a gray, kind of a purplish gray, grayish lavender. And I'm just going to start to add in some of these shadows here. Now the white of the eye does have a shadow. So you should have a little bit of darkness, especially at the top. And depending on which way the light is coming in, you're going to see a little bit of shadow in other areas too. So I'm just kind of using my marker here to drop in those dark areas. And one of the nice things about using marker and colored pencil together is that you can bring highlights back in at a later time. So if I end up going a bit too dark with any of these areas, it is totally fine. I can always bring it back. I don't want to do too much of it on purpose, but I mean, that is the reality of colored pencil. If you have a good colored pencil anyway, you'll be able to bring some of that back. And I'm even going to go ahead and just indicate where the pupil is. Now this will all get colored over. And I'm going to start to build out just a little bit of texture here. So the texture in an eye comes from the center out. And the simplest way to do it is just to do these little lines. There's definitely more complicated ways, but we're just going to do a nice easy one here. So I'm just starting to build that out. So all of these lines are going towards center. And we have just a little hint of a shadow here. I'm just kind of lightly brushing, almost a cross-hatching technique there with my marker. And I'm going here as well. Now I'm using alcohol markers. These are Copic markers. It's my favorite. Okay. So there's a nice shadow base. Now I'm going to go in and use a nice light blue here to kind of just build on those shadows just a little bit. Now we do have an undertone here because our paper is brown. So we already have a nice undertone, but we can still build on that just a little bit. A little bit of a shadow under that lid there. There we go. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of pink here. Now this whole area is quite pink. There's pink in the white of the eye as well. I don't think I'm going to draw too many veins in the white of the eye, but there's definitely a little hint of pink within the white space. And of course, the skin in this particular example does have quite a bit of pink in it. So I'm going to use pink. I'm also going to use purple, I think, for part of the shadows. Usually you have purple or blue or green undertones to an eye. Let's build this out a little more here. Now I'm going to use an even darker color. This is a dark, dark purple. Like this might be slightly too aggressive. I mean, it's not dark, 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 but it's darker than what I have in there. I'm just going to use it here again to accentuate some of those shadowy areas. Just building my values here. Yeah, it probably seems a bit weird with so much purple in there, but I think it'll all start to make sense pretty soon. All right. So I'm going to now use, let's see, kind of a greenish bluish color. I'm going to maybe use this for now. This is going to be really powerful. but I'm just going to go ahead and fill that whole space. And I can always, again, I'm planning on bringing some brightness back in. So if I go too dark here, which I have done a little bit in a certain, certain places, that's okay. There, so that really took over. I almost lost. You can see where the dark colors here really blend in, right? Like they feel dark when you put them down, but then once you start to build, they definitely start to blend and dissipate a little bit. Now, I think I'm going to use my micron here just to reinforce this here. Now, a micron doesn't blend with alcohol markers like alcohol markers do. They're meant for blending, and microns are actually really nice pens if you're looking for a felt-tipped pen that has lots of control. A micron is a good choice, and it doesn't blend. So I'm choosing this pen on purpose. I don't mind a bit of kind of blending at this stage, but I do want my pupil to be nice and prominent. And I'm also going to use this when it comes to the eyelashes, which I could throw in now, but I'm going to wait just a little bit. All right, I'm going to add some darker blues here as well. Maybe this one here. So the outside and the inside of your iris tend to be darker than the center. So what I'm going to do is just do some nice subtle kind of lines coming out from center. I'll even go in and just rebuild that outside edge, just adding some subtle textures here. And that was very subtle. I'm going to add a bit of shadow there. I'm going to add even darker blues here. Maybe I'll go in with a Persian blue. That's a nice dark color. Almost going to feel black here, I think, but that's okay. Contrast is really nice and things like this. I'm just going to do a little bit more careful lines here since this pen is so much darker. Got a little bit outside there, but I can correct that with the white colored pencil when I get to that stage. So all of these are kind of going back up towards center. And I'll do a few coming out as well. And I'm leaving a little bit of a highlight along the center of this space here, like kind of like a highlight on a donut. Usually you see a little bit of darkness on either side and then some brightness kind of in that space. And I think that's probably good enough for now. We're going to play around with that a little bit more when we get to our colored pencils. Now right here we have a more prominent pink. So I'm going to see if I can find a nice neutral pink here. Something like this is probably too dark, but maybe I'll add it in and then see if I can blend it out with that other pink just a little bit. So a little too dark, but that's okay. Again, we can pull things back if we need to, but I should be able to, there we go. See, I'm kind of blending that out there so it's not as potent, and it has a nice natural feel to it as well, which is good. All right, this is quite pink down here. I'm gonna lean into that a bit more. All right, and then there was another pink I found here. So I found the Deco Pink. So this is kind of a neutral pink, but I think it's perfect for the skin tone I'm trying to lay in here. And you'll notice I didn't erase any pencil at that stage. I probably will before I get into my my colored pencil, just because I don't want those two to overlap and for it to muddy up things in that space. But for now, this should work. Just going to kind of do a fade out here for skin tone. I'm not going to build out the whole face or anything, but there we go. Usually there's a bit of a shadow in the eye space. I could probably use a purple for that, like a light purple. Just add a bit of shadow value there. Keep darkening that white of the eye. See how dark we're getting it? And I'm not worried about it because I can bring it back when we do our colored pencil. All right, and I am going to, I think, add in some lashes at this stage. So I'm going to start off with a 90% gray. And I'm going to start at the top lid. So this is the top lid here, and I'm going to kind of go down from there. In almost like a check mark shape. And I don't want to do too many here, but there we You want to make them feel kind of natural. This is a bit of a thicker marker. It's there we go. It's the brush tip of a Copic pen, so it's not the thinnest marker in the world, but that's okay. I think for just a few of these it'll be nice. And then I will use my microns. I think I'll use, what is this, a 10? 10 might be too thick. Let's see. I'm gonna add a bit more. We'll try it out. We'll try it out here. Yeah, you know, it's a bit thick, but it's okay. I'm doing a pretty big eye, and I guess this person's wearing quite a bit of mascara. They are in the picture, actually. There's quite a bit of mascara in the picture. You'll see that not everybody's eyelids even do this, or their eyelashes, I should say. Some of them do feel almost invisible. All right, so I'm trying to kind of flick my wrist as I do these lashes to give them a natural feel. There we go. Doing that whole kind of swoosh. Looks like a Nike symbol, starting at the top and then working my way down. And I think I will just kind of solidify this wrinkle just a bit. It's going to be aggressive, but that's okay. Okay, so I think at this stage, I'm probably ready to do the colored pencil. Just going to add just a bit more darkness right there. Now the colored pencil's fun because you really start to bring out all of your highlights and stuff. Before I do that, I am just going to do a very light erase, specifically in the white of the eye. All right, white colored pencil. I'm going to zoom in for this one because, as I said, it's quite fun to see the transformation of the eye. So I'm going to start here with a nice highlight. Now, if I were doing a pencil drawing, I would have omitted the highlight area in the pencil drawing, but the advantage of having these markers and colored pencils is that you can draw this in at a later time. I'm using a different pressure here to create a lighter white. The whitest part of the eye is actually your reflection, and a little bit of a reflection down here. This will help to create moisture in the eye. Usually there's a little bit of reflection in the tear duct as well, and light travels through an eye, so you're going to see, even on the shadow side, a little bit of highlight. The light is coming in this way and moving that way. Now, I'm also going to build on this texture just a little bit on the inside of the eye. And I'm going to use color for this as well, but this is going to give me a nice base. There we go. And yeah, I think that's pretty good. I'm just wondering if I should, there we go. I'm going to add, I think, a small dot here as well. This feels like it should have one. It doesn't have one in the reference, but I quite enjoy adding highlights into an eye. So now I'm going to go in and try to match the color of the eye a little bit better with maybe some light blues or greens. I have a nice light green here, so I'm going to give that a nice sharpen. And I'm going to just lean into this a little bit more here. Specifically in the highlight area, and I'll even go in with a darker color like this, because when the color sits on top of the marker, it creates a really nice potent value, so it's going to help the eye to feel just nice and colorful. The marker blends with the paper, it absorbs into the paper, whereas the colored pencil sits on top of the paper and also the marker that is absorbed into the paper. So you end up getting just a really nice bright color. So if you're looking to do a super bright color, put a marker base down and then add the pencil crayon on top, and you'll see that those colors get nice and bright. I would like to add just a small highlight here as well. Maybe here. I'm gonna pull that highlight in just a bit there. You can see it blended. I had colored pencil there, so it blended a little bit. That's okay. That's fine. All right, getting into this now. Even over here, I think it's now starting to feel almost a bit too dark in certain spaces. So I'm going to use a gray. here all the, okay, maybe I'll just go in with a blue. Just think I need to darken just that space just a bit more. There we go. All right. Just going back in with the marker just really quickly here. Doing that dark purple again. Just to help solidify that inner edge. I'm just barely using the tip of the pen here. There we go. All right, now this feels a bit aggressive up here, so I'm also going to, I think I'll add a little bit of the red up here as well. And then maybe use that blue just to try to dull that. It's because I added the micron in. That might have been a mistake, but it's okay. And this is all kind of shadow on that side. There we go. And I think I will use just a light blue to bring a little bit of coolness into the white of the eye here. So the light blue is still going to be brighter than the page, so it's going to feel quite bright. Just going to bring a little bit into here. Might even, yeah, I think that's good. There we go. And something else I like to do is use a blender. So I'm going to use a colorless blender here, and the reason for that is because I don't want to get any extra buildup. It's feeling a bit chalky, but I do like the tone of this. So in order to blend the chalkiness into the marker that I already have down, I'm going to use a colorless blender, and I'm just going to go over this with small circles. Always moving in a circle if you can help it, and this will help to get that nice smoothness here. There we go. I'm going to do the same thing on this side, just to kind of push that. There we go. So you can see it's smoothing things out a little bit. I don't really think I need to do it in here, but maybe I will in the eye just a bit. There we go. Now, the middle of the eye often will have a little bit of a story as well, and we don't really see too much here. It's all black, but we can bring a bit of it back. So I'm going to go in with a 70% gray, still a very dark color, but it's going to allow me to tell a little bit of a story here. Well, that's not quite as bright as I was hoping it would be, so I think I'll go in with white. There we go. So often you can see things in an eye. It's very reflective. So having just a little bit of variety within your eye space can kind of help it to feel more natural. There we go. That's starting to look quite nice. Now you'll notice that this is starting to feel a bit too choppy now. Everything else is starting to feel polished. So I'm going to go in with a black colored pencil, and I'm just going to make that feel a bit more natural here. All right, so my colored pencil's nice and sharp. So where this overlays on top of the marker, we're going to get a darker colored pencil. And where it's fresh, it's going to feel a bit lighter. Feels a little less rigid because it's a colored pencil. It's softer. So that's all kind of nice. And I'm going to do the same thing down here. You could use a gray as well, or even a brown. I mean, lashes are really only black if the person has very dark hair or they're wearing mascara. Again, in my reference, there is a mascara here. And right in here, I do want to add a bit of brightness, just to help it push forward. So I think I will use white. I'm just going to find it here. I could use like a light pink. I'm just seeing if this one might be good. This might be a nice color. It's kind of a beige. Let me use that and see if I can push the lid forward just a little bit. And maybe I do need a bright pink here. Let's see. This one might be too bright, but I can always blend. Ooh, I like that for here, though. Look at that. A little bit of pink in there feels kind of nice, actually. Let's just throw a bit in. Okay. All right, so we're starting to feel pretty good at this point. We're just fussing, which is always a fun place to be. I like the fussing stage. A little bit more of a shadow there. You know, I mean, that's starting to look pretty good. I think we could do a little bit more dark around the outside edge. So I'm just gonna see if I can pull my darkest blue. This is a pretty good one, indigo. And I'm just gonna do a little bit more darkness on the iris. And sometimes you'll even see kind of little dots. The eye is just a beautiful thing to zoom in on. There we go. I think that's looking pretty nice. So there's the eye tutorial. Again, I could fuss with this forever, but I probably should stop. Like, I just want to add in little wrinkles and maybe a little highlight there. There's lots of things that we can do here. But it is looking pretty good, and I don't want to make the video too long. But, you know, in your own drawing, fuss away, really look at references, look at lighting, see how the lighting works, and try to really understand it. I think understanding lighting is pretty important in terms of art. You have to really understand lighting. But yes, that's our drawing. Thank you very much for drawing with me today. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. And stick around for more videos, subscribe, like, all that stuff. If you would like to see my Instagram, you can find me at creations_by_Kendra. And on Facebook, you can find me at Creations by Kendra. Thank you very much. Bye.